All right, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today on our Facebook Live that we're doing every weekday here at the Health Department. Just to remind everyone, I'm Ashton Day. I'm a health educator here at the Health Department. Shelby is our interpreter, and then I'm going to let my guest for today introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Sandy Miller, Sandy Lillard Miller. I say the middle name as well because I was Sandy Lillard as a therapist here for years in Columbia. I'm now the social service supervisor at Public Health and Human Services and manage a home visiting program. But since I had the background in mental health and I still have a mental health license, given what's going on right now, I've stepped into a role to kind of manage mental health services and help coordinate those and also be here to offer some clinical advice and help out.
Yeah, so like she said, we're talking about mental health today, and it's important at all times, but especially right now. We are definitely in uncharted territory for so many people. So we're going to go over some coping mechanisms and resources in the area, but you are also welcome to ask your questions, and we will try to get to all of those today as well. So just to start off, what are some main ways people can maintain good mental health while in their homes during the stay-at-home order?
So being at home, it creates a situation where you might be a little afraid of boredom or just not having enough socialization. It can lead to turning on the TV and watching the news and seeing the same story over and over so that it feels like something awful happened 100 times instead of once. So some different things that I would really encourage people to do is make a list of things that you really enjoy doing just in normal day-to-day life when this isn't going on that you're still able to do. And that might be some things I've come up with: read, cook or bake. I'm not good at fine motor skill type things, but if you are and you want to crochet or knit or quilt, or if you're a good crafter, those are all things you can still do. Watch a movie. You can dance to music. Dance parties with the kids is sometimes a good way to get out some energy. Color a picture, put a puzzle together, play cards or games or charades. If you don't have games or craft items or whatever you need at home, that can be kind of hard right now because we can't really go out and get everything we need, or it's probably not the best idea to. So there are a lot of types of games that you can do that are just imaginary play, or that, if you remember back to some of the things that we used to play as kids that you might try with your kids, the red light, green light, or Mother May I, some of those types of things, and charades was one that I think I already said. Socializing, you can call or FaceTime with friends or family. Those I really encourage people to be reaching out. Part of the time just being alone or just with the people in your own home, that might be reassuring in and of itself, but it's also good to kind of get some contact outside of there. And right now the safest way to do that is to pick up the phone or to get on the computer. But I would minimize the amount of time on the computer, just especially a lot of the social media and a lot of the news is you really have to be careful about the accuracy, and you want to make sure you're getting good information. And then again, I think I already said, if you see the same tragic story 100 times, it feels like it happened 100 times. So you don't want to be too obsessively checking in on the internet or the 24-hour news stations.
Yeah, those are some really good tips, and a lot of things we're able to do at home without access to the stores, as you mentioned, outside of grocery stores.
I was also going to say that another thing to do that helps some folks is if you feel like you're being productive. So you might want to make a list of things that you would like to get done. Organizing a closet or gathering things that you're going to, once we're able to get out and about, you're going to take to Goodwill or Salvation Army, or decluttering your kitchen, things like that. Sometimes doing something that felt productive can really actually increase endorphins and make you feel a little bit better. So it's not a bad idea to maybe set a goal each day to do something like that. I think some other ideas I had, you might learn, if there's a topic you've always been interested in, you might do some research on it. Not just researching COVID-19 and what's going on with that, but maybe you always we're curious about outer space, or there's an animal that you've always thought was really cute and you want to know more about it, or definitely helping kids do some of those things. Now's a good time now you may have some time to do things that you've always wanted to do and never really had the time for. So those are ways to be productive. Also, you might want to make a list of things that you just would still make you feel good to do every day, even though you're not going to work or out and about or where you normally go. You might still, if taking a shower is a part of your morning or evening routine, you might want to still do that. You might want to keep your same bedtime routine, and try to keep your same sleeping hours. It's really easy to kind of lose track of time, days, all of that when we don't have our normal routines, and that can kind of mess with us emotionally. Some people don't mind it too much. Other people, it's very stressful. So if you are someone who thrives on routine, or if you start noticing yourself feeling a little out of whack, then go ahead and get on back on your routine where you're getting up at the same time every day, going to bed at the same time, maybe have your meals the same time you normally would. Just some things like that if you're someone who exercises every day, and maybe you usually go to the gym or out for a run, and you're limited now, find some other ways to get up and move. You don't have to train like an athlete or obsessively worry about doing the perfect exercise routine, but just even if you have stairs in your home, going up and down, or going for a walk around the house, just some things like that to get yourself up and moving. And then focus on what you can control. You can control things like your attitude, how much of the news you're watching, whether or not you're being kind to other people around you, making the list of fun things that you like to do and focusing on those. These are all the type of things that you can control. You can't control how long this goes on. We can't, all of us together can hopefully make an impact on that, but you yourself don't have complete control over how long this goes on, or predicting the future, or how others are responding to it, how they're behaving. And those are things that if you focus on too much, because they're not something you have control over, you start to feel powerless, and that can really lead to some depression and anxiety. It's just healthier to go ahead and focus on what you can do. And so I'd really encourage that. Maybe make a list of each and just make a commitment to focus on what you can control. And I was going to teach some deep breathing. Is now a good time to do that? Oh, yeah,
definitely.
Okay.
And I can be your example, too, if needed.
Yeah. So, and we'll get to a few other things. This is actually a pretty long part of what we want to talk about today, are just the things you can be doing at home, because that is where so many people are at and their biggest concern. So probably more important than anything else we'll talk about is learning diaphragmatic breathing and checking in several times during the day to make sure you're doing it. Help your kids, if you have kids at home, help them learn how to do it. I'm not going to do this here, but if I were at home like you are, I would lay on my back and kind of put your knees up so you're comfortable. You might take a little pillow, a box of Kleenex, a stuffed animal, something light, and just set it so, okay, here's my belly button. I'm going to take my hand and I'm going to put it flat right above where my belly button is, okay? And that's your diaphragm. That's where you want to make sure air is getting to. So you're going to breathe in, and when you breathe in, rather than your chest coming out, the air should go all the way down and it should come out here. So if you have like a little stuffed animal or something sitting here and you're laying on your back, you'll see it go up a little bit. So what you want to do is breathe in, watch that go up, and then hold it, and then very slowly let it down. So let's do that together for 8 seconds in, then we're going to hold it for 8 seconds, and then 8 seconds out. So ready? Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If that was hard for you, you might just keep working on that. If that's easy for you, you might want to add some more time. But what you're trying to do is just slow down your breathing, and more importantly than that, you're just trying to make sure the air is getting all the way down here. No perfect way to do it. If right now you're confused and you're thinking, well, my chest is coming out, but just keep working on it. The more you practice, the better it gets. And eventually you'll realize that when you kind of calm down, that air can go all the way down here. It boosts our immune system, it calms down. Just if you can't have a panic attack when you're breathing this way, so that's really cool. So if you want to if you feel like you're starting to panic, you can look at the clock and just watch how long you're breathing in, breathing out, and it will calm you down. It clears your mind, you're able to think more clearly, you're less agitated. There are so many good things, and a big thing right now is it boosts your immune system. So several times throughout the day, whether you're staying at home or whether you're someone who's having to work, just kind of check your diaphragm and make sure air is getting all the way down there. And what you'll find, and even someone like me who's taught this to clients for years and does it religiously, I still will, in a situation like this where I've taken 8 conference calls in a row and had a crisis call, and all of a sudden I'll realize my shoulders are tight, my neck hurts, and I'll realize I'm breathing shallow up here quickly. And so I just have to remember to all the way down in your diaphragm. And that's probably one of the most important things we'll talk about today that will impact your mental health. So really encourage your kids to do it, be doing it yourself, maybe make it fun, make some games out of it. But that's going to be a real important part of staying healthy at home. And a few other things about being at home. If you're home with your family, kind of look through those first 3 things we talked about, the making a list of what you like to do, and then the second one was things that would feel productive to get done, and then 3 being things that you do every day that might be good to continue to do, even though you don't necessarily have to right now. And maybe make those with your family and your kids, and so everybody's on the same page. I think we talked a little bit about exercising at home. Another thing that's really good for mental health is gratitude. Some people are religious and they pray, and that's a big part of gratitude's a big part of that, and that can be a positive thing for them. Some people aren't. That's fine. Gratitude is still something that we know releases endorphins. It affects your serotonin. It's a way of reshaping a thought so that we're focusing in a more positive way, and it kind of, it actually literally opens your brain a little bit. So ways to do that might be to write some thank you notes, make a list of each day of 7 things for which you are grateful, tell other people what you appreciate about them. You have time right now probably to make phone calls or write letters or say, hey, I was just thinking about 10 years ago when whatever happened and you reached out and you helped, and I just wanted to say thank you. And we haven't talked in a long time, but I just wanted to say thank you. Make a list of characteristics you are glad that you possess. A big part of the gratitude that's helpful is being grateful to yourself for the things you're doing right. Most of us spend a lot of time thinking of the things we're doing wrong and being frustrated. I was gonna stick to this new health plan and I didn't do it, and we just kind of beat ourselves up all day. But really focus, especially right now when you're spending a lot of time just with yourself or just with the people immediately around you, is a really good time to be good to yourself. I mean, we always should be, but now is a really good time to be good to yourself. Think of what you like about yourself, what you're really grateful to yourself, that, I'm glad that I worked hard and I'm doing really well with this. And if there are times in your life where you have made great improvements and there are other people who helped you, reach out to them and say thank you, or just say thank you, inside your own head, like, wow, I'm grateful to these 7 people because I'm not sure I ever would have got my degree without them, or things like that. So be thinking about what you're grateful for. We talked about socializing. It's, like we said, it's a little hard to do right now in the ways that you might be most used to doing it, but there are online groups for different hobbies and sports. It doesn't have to be just time talking about COVID-19. Call a friend, write a letter, FaceTime. I know I've seen a lot of people who are setting up times with friends or family to watch a movie together and then talk about it. Or I was talking to one person who said that their friends are FaceTiming and playing cards together over the phone. That's great. You might come up with a list of questions for a group of friends to answer, or just funny things. What's your most embarrassing memory? What's something that made you laugh when you were little? I mean, just all those kinds of silly questions we'll see on Facebook or Instagram. That's a fun way to be communicating right now and thinking about things that are healthy for us. It may seem silly, but it's healthy right now to have some distractions. So yeah, embrace that.
I love all of those ideas, and I know so many people, especially right now, want to be involved and help others in ways they can, and that gratitude and the thank you notes, and even if it's just to the neighbor for, helping watch your kids a couple weeks ago or something, just expressing that gratitude. I really like that you talked about that. That was good. You talked a lot about families and doing activities together, but is there other specific tools to help children cope and kind of better understand what's going on in the world right now?
Yeah, there definitely are some things to really think about when you're interacting with your kids. So obviously lots of different ages, and children have different worries at different ages and different things that they're interested in. So it's important to think about that. So say you have a 14-year-old, it might make sense for them to read an article or watch part of a news program with you and have a conversation. I wouldn't necessarily want them doing a lot of that in isolation, because even though 14-year-olds are 15, 16, 17, they seem in some ways mature and in some ways really immature. Even if you have a child who's really bright and exceptionally, could intellectually process the information, they are different emotionally, and so you want to be protective. You don't want a lot of news for an adolescent, but a little bit makes sense. Now with younger children, I would say I wouldn't even have the news on when they're in the room. Okay. And I mean, I think the best way with younger children is ask them what they know, and if they have any questions for you, be incredibly honest, because one of the things that we do sometimes with great intention that actually backfires is we try to tell kids things are different than they are because we feel like, oh, they're so young and innocent, I want to protect them, I don't want them to worry. And that actually increases anxiety, because then when we are able to really provide reassurance, they don't know whether or not to trust it. Mm-hmm. So you want to be honest. If they say, are some people dying of this? Well, some people are. And that's very sad, and that's okay to feel sad about that. We don't want to lie about things like that. But we also want to try and capture the information in a way that they can understand. And one of the best ways to do that is to ask them, what do you know about this? You may find with younger children, and I've had people say that their children don't know anything about it. They're not paying attention. I still might ask them, because some kids do. They may not have figured out how to put it into words and ask you, but they've heard little bits and pieces, maybe before they were sent home from school, that people were already talking about it. And kids have a way of filling in gaps. And sometimes, it's wonderful and creative and beautiful and funny, and we really enjoy it when they tell us these, outlandish stories, or they have this imaginary play. It actually can be really disturbing when it's about something that they're fearful of, because they may fill in the blanks with worst case scenario or with things that aren't even possible. And so it's important, when they tell you what they know, reflect back what you hear them saying and how they're feeling about it, but then clear up any misinformation they have. So let's see. Oops, almost lost my place here. Okay, so after you validate, after you've said, oh, I can see that you're scared, or you might say this in a way that, say that your child says, Mom, I'm scared that you work with sick people. I'm scared you're going to get sick. So you might say, you're worried that Mommy's going to get sick because when she goes to work, she sees sick people. Or maybe your kids know that you've had to move several times and you've had a hard time maintaining housing, or they're worried about not having enough food. And so you would say, you're afraid we're going to be so poor after this, we're not going to have any place to live or any food to eat. If that's what the kids are worried about, you want to say back to them what you hear them saying. Then you can validate how they're feeling and offer a little more information. So say your son has said, I sneezed and Henry said that I might have coronavirus. Then you can say, well, people sneeze for a lot of reasons, but that's not a sign that you have COVID-19. So you can clarify that. Mommy does go to work to help sick people get better. She's wearing gloves and a mask. And if people have COVID-19 symptoms, they're also wearing a mask and gloves. And you can explain, when mom went to medical school, one of the things she studied was how to protect herself when she's helping sick people. So you don't necessarily have to get into all the minutia, but very kind of just clear, easy, digestible information for kids with information that we can provide that's honest, but also reassuring. You might say about if your child's worried about finances. You might say, we're going to have to be really careful about what we spend money on right now. I'm glad we're all here safe together, and Dad and I, or if you may be a single parent, you may be living with grandma, whatever your situation, you can explain that adults are putting money towards the most important needs, and that you're going to reach out to some places in town that are helping out with people who are struggling in these areas. So just kind of letting kids know that you're aware of the concern, and it's a valid concern, and you as an adult are doing what you need to do to try and make that best outcome as possible. And that's kind of the reassurance that kids need. Definitely minimize exposure to information. I know we've talked about with the news and computer, but also just in the conversations that kids hear you having. Maybe you need to call a friend or talk to another adult in the house and just kind of vent because you're upset and frustrated and stressed, and that's a good thing to do. And it's okay for kids to hear you reaching out and expressing your feelings, because that models for them that's a healthy thing to do. But be a little bit careful if they're with you of what they hear you saying. So a couple of examples that I gave were it would be appropriate for a kid to hear you call your friend and say, "Hi, Kara, yeah, we're struggling here too. We really wish we could get out of the space for a while. What are you all doing at your house to stay busy? Maybe we should call and check in with each other." Those are things that would be a healthy thing for a kid to hear. Now, if they heard you say, "I'm terrified, I'm going to lose my mind, I don't want to suffer through all this just to be broke at the end and have to move again. I heard yesterday that 72 more people died. I don't trust the medical professional." Those are things that a kid hearing would really, they don't have, I mean, that's a difficult thing for any of us to hear, but it's not necessarily what you want to be feeding your own brain, but definitely a young mind would really be overwhelmed by that. So if you're having those kind of feelings, there are places to reach out for help, and definitely I would want you to express those to someone. But in this situation, we're just talking about how to kind of protect kids from hearing things that might be too much for them. We talked about the watching the news piece. A really important piece to think about with children is they feel incredibly responsible for what happens. Young children do. They really, they are the center of their universe. And that's adorable when a 3-year-old thinks they're the most important person in the world, and in their eyes everybody in the room is looking at them, and they're funny and they're cute, and that's such a fun thing. That's one of the things a lot of us love about children. It is really disconcerting to a child, though, when things aren't going well or when something scary happens, because a lot of times they start to try and figure out what they did to make it happen. They don't necessarily get, and it's obviously not a rational thought, but it's a very normal thing for kids to think. And so that's one of the reasons I want you to be checking in with them and asking them how they're feeling and what they're worried about, or if they are worried. And so, for example, you might say Tommy tells you that he's really worried because one time he didn't wash his hands after he went to the bathroom because he just was so excited to get back and play, and now he's afraid that he spread germs and he caused something along these lines. And so you could say, "I hear you saying that you're worried, that sometimes when you're playing, you'd be so excited to get back to playing that you'd not wash your hands. It is a good idea to wash your hands, but you did not cause this virus." So just that reassuring, this is not his fault. All of us make mistakes. We don't do things perfectly. This is not his fault. Another example would be a child saying that they're worried that their bad behavior caused something bad to happen. So you might say, "You're upset because sometimes you break the rules or say mean things to your sister, and you're afraid that is why bad things are happening. All brothers and sisters fight sometimes and say mean things. It doesn't cause a pandemic." Maybe even normalize it for them. Your uncle and I used to fight when we were little, and we're friends now, or whatever your situation is. But it's important to check in, because kids will have some of these ideas that maybe something they did cause this horrible thing to happen.
Yeah, those are all really great examples, and I think our team is working on getting these mental health tips and things on our website right now, so be on the lookout for that for more information. Just for the sake of time, though, I would love to talk more about the resources available
Sure,
and
absolutely.
how people should seek help if they need it.
Yes. So, if you are, let me look first for that. If you're a family with children, I want to really encourage you to go to call FACE. FACE of Boone County is, sorry, I just misplaced where I want to make sure I get you the right number here. Okay, here we go. So FACE of Boone County, they are right now providing screenings and trying to make sure they get people set up with a therapist, a psychiatrist, whatever it is that they're needing. Now, that's not necessarily all provided through them, but they are a great place to go through that kind of is, excuse me, they're well aware of what's going on in the community, and we've worked very hard. The Boone County Community Services and myself have worked hard with FACE to try and identify who's providing what service. And so if you are a family with children, this is where you would go, and you can call 771-3223. That area code's 573-771-3223, and that's FACE of Boone County. That's for children, youth 19 years or younger and their families. If you are looking for behavioral health help and you don't fall into that FACE group, or even if you do, actually, you could go to these other places as well. But the Borough Behavioral Health Crisis Line is 1-800-395-2132. That's a crisis line. You could call just to set up services. Maybe you're not in crisis, but you feel like it would be a good idea to get something set up. That's 573-777-8455. There's also Compass Behavioral Health. Their crisis line is 1-888-237-4567, and their general intake number is 844-853-8937. We also have some other crisis lines on our webpage that are 24-hour crisis lines that are being provided by United Healthcare and by SAMHSA, which is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration. I want to encourage you to call for help immediately if you are feeling hopeless, if you've had thoughts of suicide, if your moods are just swinging back and forth, you're not sleeping or you're sleeping too much, anything that feels really different for you, or if you're feeling scared yourself that something's just not quite right, I want to encourage you to reach out for help right away. Call one of the crisis lines if you need to. If you're just thinking, I could use some support right now, and you don't feel like you're in crisis, then there's these other resources that are great to maybe set up. A lot of places are offering temporary therapy. You don't necessarily have to sign up to be a long-term patient, but if right now you could do some and they'll do via the phone or telehealth. You don't have to go anywhere to be assessed. You can do this from home. But reach out if it's a really good thing to do if you're not feeling quite right.
Yeah, those are great. And I have put those numbers and who to contact in our comment section so people can refer to that. And they can also go to our website at como.gov/coronavirus. I think we probably have a little bit of time to cover one more thing. So would you like to talk about how I can reach out to loved ones with mental health issues?
Yeah,
just to make sure they're okay during this time?
I'm going to look at my little sheet here to make sure I don't forget anything, but I think the number one thing that I want people to stop and think about is how you would reach out if someone had a physical health issue. You would want to make sure they have their basic needs met. Do they have their medication? Are they in touch with their provider? Those are the type of things, and being loving and supportive. These are the type of things that we would do for anybody with a health issue, and a mental health issue is a health issue. But something to really think about is if you know someone which most of us do, know someone who has a serious mental illness, a huge part of their treatment is usually a routine, community interaction, a lot of contact, whether it be with providers, family, support groups. So many of these folks are struggling with the same mental illness they've always had, but now all of a sudden 80% of what they normally do to help take care of it, they're not able to do. So reaching out is really important. I would be really open and honest about what you hear if you're at all concerned that someone's seeming delusional or paranoid or very depressed or too manic, too hyper, something like that. I wouldn't tiptoe around that. I would just say, I'm really concerned. I think it's time to call your doctor. If they seem to be doing fine, I would say, hey, let's stay in touch with each other and just keep reaching out. If someone struggles with a lot of anxiety and depression, they're probably well aware that they're not feeling great and they may reach out. On the other hand, sometimes that can feel overwhelming to do, so it's good that we reach out to them. Not just text, hey, are you okay, but maybe hearing their voice, talking for a little bit and really getting a feel for how they're doing. Sometimes with mental illness that has psychoses or delusions or something like that involved, or mood shifts like to mania, or sometimes people are not, the way that they become aware that they're having a shift is somebody else telling them, and so being at home by themselves, they may not even realize that they're not doing great. And so you got to call it like you see it, be really honest and non-judgmental, and just, hey, I think it's time to get some help, and that's the way to go about that.
Yeah.
So
awesome. Those are it's all great information you shared with us today. We appreciate you being with us. Again, Sandra Miller, who works here at the health department, and our interpreter Shelby. We will be sharing all of these resources on our Facebook in the coming weeks, just as reminders, and you can always reach out to the numbers we provided. All of the health information you need can be found at como.gov/coronavirus, and you can also email us directly at coronavirus@como.gov if you have health questions. Or call us at 573-874-7355. All right, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you.
Bye.